my contraction was through overwhelm, but yours was through letting go of control.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I mean, as you were saying, 2022 was
The year.
the year of rebirthing and birthing. So for me, we were talking about starting a family. We were ready to start a family. And somewhere in that journey, I made an unconscious decision that in order for me to be a good mom, because I wanted to be a good mom, I needed to replace myself in the business. So I decided that I could not do both well at the same time. I'd either had my business as my baby or have a baby. So I started this quest to replace myself. I had a plan, like everything else, right? I planned it all out. I needed to hire a director of operations, a project manager, an executive assistant.
Yeah, we needed a whole team to replace you.
Yeah, I needed 3 people to replace myself, and we started hiring all those people. We did hire quite a few, like amazing people. Like the resumes were flawless. Like the experience that they had.
They did the assignments well that we put people through. Their references were incredible. And then the second they got into the position, it's like somebody put the stupid spell on them.
Yeah, I mean, it just, I couldn't believe it. It was mind blowing. Like, it's like, why is this person behaving this way? Mistake after mistake. And there I was always not trusting that someone else could do it like I do. And I needed to document everything, create a standard operating procedures of the things that I was doing so I could train these new people according to my standards, how I do it. So all of that is control. I fired several of them. Some of them quit. Couple of my really good employees probably were at the brink of quitting as well. And all of this happened, and time was of essence because I was about to give birth. And I remember I was so stressed out, and I will not listen to David. I will not let David coach me through it. So David, being very creative, he actually sourced to one of our frienders. He's a very good friend of ours and mentor, and he kind of like asked him to intervene and have a conversation with me. And through this friender, he helped me realize, right? So the 3 of us were on a call and we were talking about what was happening, and he actually helped me see that I made this decision without any space. It just like, if I try to pinpoint when I decided that I couldn't be a mom and a business owner, I don't recall. But I created a whole journey around that, a whole story that it needed to happen. And it was making myself miserable. And then I was feeling worse because I didn't want my baby to experience the feelings that I was experiencing, as I was frustrated because I couldn't find someone to replace me. So when we had that call with our friender, he asked this very simple question, which nobody asked before, not even myself. And he's like, well, what's the reason that you cannot do both? Why you cannot do both, be a mom and continue working in your business? And I'm like, I don't know, I guess I can. And the moment I say that, I'm like, oh, wow, I can do both. I don't have to let go of my business. But it was very clear that it was not going to work the way that I was doing it up to that point, because nothing would move in the company without my approval. I was approving the copy. I was approving marketing ideas, sales ideas. Everything had to go through my desk to be approved before it went live. And I guess life has had this teaching for me. Life knew that, okay, Carol, you're ready for your next level of evolution. I didn't know. And put me in a situation that while I was pregnant, somehow it was an easy pregnancy, but there was something that was very uncomfortable, which was this morning sickness that lasted the whole day. And through this morning sickness, there were days that I couldn't even get up. I couldn't look at the computer. I had to lay down. And I was kind of forced to be there and make space for myself, where otherwise I would have not done it, because for me, life was more comfortable if I have every second of it filled with something. And my business was the perfect setup for that to be accomplished, because there is always something when you own your business. There is always something that needed to be done. So I got to a place where I had to sit still and do nothing. And what I discovered in those moments was space, but I didn't know what to do with it, right? So what I ended up doing with that space was freaking out even more, because in my head, all what I could do is just complain about the people that we hire not doing a good job, and we're not going to be able to do this, and I'm not going to be able to let go of my job, and just kept on this looping thoughts process until I had that conversation with our friender, and I realized that I needed to let go of control, that I was pretty much a control freak.
Yeah, it's interesting the language you use too, because for you were a control freak. I was a worrier. My brother was going through something similar at the same time, where we realized that his core program was shame and guilt. And we started seeing that there was sort of this super limiting belief that every single person around us had, and so many people were challenged with it at around the same time, because we were surrounded by a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners too. And so as their businesses were contracting, the way to expansion was actually letting go of the personality and the ways of being that they had perceived had gotten them to where they were. But it was a terrifying thing to do, because you're not aware of what's next. You don't know how to be different. And so what you're really being asked to do is to stop doing the thing that has become your go-to way of taking care of yourself, of feeling safe, of succeeding, and just stop doing that thing. And so, the mind says, well, then what else do I do? And it's almost like this free fall, right, experience into it. And it's one of the beautiful things about the core program, which we spend 3 weeks on working through when we take everyone through the whole human framework, is that it forces you into a deeper relationship with spirit and with yourself. It forces you into trust, because it's not one of those things where you go, well, I'm going to stop doing this and I'm going to do this. It's just like, no, you're going to stop controlling. And I remember that conversation we had with our friend Tor, where he helped you see the fear you had around people making mistakes. And the irony of, well, we have to let people make mistakes, otherwise they can never self-correct and they can improve. And so you were spending all this time running around preventing mistakes before they happened. And so the team was never really motivated to self-correct. And so this process that we went through gave birth to the pivot of the whole organization. The space that was created as you stopped controlling and I stopped worrying, and we both started trusting more, and we focused on our own self-care and our well-being. All of a sudden, our team started performing at a higher level. And the answers we were looking for, that we were trying to brute force around, well, what do we do next in the business? They just emerged. The whole human framework just emerged. The whole human network just showed up in the space, in our willingness to go, we don't know what's next, but we know that we're not going to bring what we've been doing into this present moment anymore.
Yeah. And it's so, it sounds simple in a sense, like, okay, what's your core program? And it's somehow easy to identify what it is, because you see it reflected on everything that you do in your life. Like for me, control on everything. How my house needs to be organized, where the shoes should go, where the car should be parked, like everything. It's just control. And then realizing that that's my core program, right? So our friend and you helped me realize that. I knew it. But then, like you say, all what you need to do is just stop doing that, stop using that. But it's not simple.
It's simple.
Right?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. It's actually extremely difficult.
Yeah, you're so habited to it.
Yeah, and I think I was fortunate enough that I'm married to, I'm a little biased, but someone who I think is the best at what you do at helping people with their mindset, like identifying their core program and helping them improve their way of being. And you helped me navigate through those times, because I remember something as simple as me giving a task to my project manager and say, hey, the deadline is 2 days from now at this time, being super specific on the time where it needed to be done. But that was according to my standards on how fast I do things. She was with us only for a few months, and I never even thought it can take her twice that amount of time. And for me, getting that anxiety of like, I need to check if she's already working on it, and you helping me navigate through that process of actually not doing it, like you helping me with tools of what to do instead, like let's go for a walk, or let's take the dog out, or let's have a cup of tea. So it sounds like it's not a big deal, but it was a huge deal for me. And what it really helped me was you helping me navigate through what to do to start breaking from that behavior. And through that also, it came that realization that I have of like, oh, what I need is just insert space. Because with the space, everything comes to fruition. And at the end of the day, my project manager will finish the things that I was asking, do a good job at it, and I didn't have to panic or start thinking about it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
For helping me that way.
You're welcome. Well, thank you for being an example of the core program and working through it, because the beauty, and again, what I'm wanting to communicate from this conversation is that we both started out in places where we lacked clarity, and life guided us in miraculous ways on our own individual journeys, and as we came together into a collective journey. Mm-hmm. And there was a period of time where even though we were clear, we struggled to create what we wanted to create. We were launching digital program after digital program. It took us a couple of years. There were times where we wanted to give up, and then we created what our vision was. And then as we were living in our vision, it sort of built up a momentum based on who we had been when we created it. But we were being called to change, mm-hmm. to expand our consciousness, to become more available, to increase our capacity for the next level of our vision. But, and so the old vision stops working, and it's supposed to stop working.
And it's so obvious.
Well,
right?
I don't know. It became obvious for us.
Now we see how obvious
Sure,
it
looking
was.
backwards, I think
Yeah.
when you're in the midst of this, it's not obvious at all. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I spent all this time and energy trying to get to this point, and now it's not working, and I got to get it to rework again. Mm-hmm. And you know, one of the interesting things is you're now starting to play the game rather than to win. You're playing the game to not lose what you've created. Mm-hmm. And so everything moves you into this kind of fight or flight, parasympathetic, unresourced state. But that's actually part of the process too, because you know, at some point you acquiesce. You go, okay, I got it. Like, I guess this isn't the way that it's supposed to work. And the transition point there, which is what we're wanting people to understand, because I think so few people understand it, is at that point in time, what you're being called to do is let go of the core of who you've become, mm-hmm. so that there can be the space for the emergence of the next level of you. Mm-hmm. And it's very scary because life or spirit or universe or God doesn't show you what's next first. Mm-hmm. You're called to let go of what you've been using to hold on to life. It's very much like that Steve Harvey YouTube video around standing on the cliff of life and you have to jump. But it's only after you jump that you realize you have a parachute and the parachute will open. It doesn't open before you jump. And so that's what happens. And the way to work through, I think many of us realize that there's something going on in our behavior that feels compulsive, that feels addictive, that feels that is crippling and limiting in our lives. Like we sense that. Sometimes it's this constant thinking or feeling that I don't matter. Right? We found that to be a core program for a lot of people. Or things don't work out for me. Or it's not fair. Life's not fair. But we don't really know what to do with it. And no matter how much personal growth you do, and no matter how many tools you apply, you just can't seem to to change this thing, because the key is this isn't one that you change, it's a thing that you let go of. And so the beautiful thing about all this is that what life is asking us to do is enjoy ourselves. It's asking us to go and do energizing things. You know, I spoke to a woman at our last event, our legendary business event in Mexico, and she was kind of having a breakdown in the middle of the event. And she said, you know, I've only got 4 months of cash flow left in my business, and I think it's crazy. What am I doing? I should go back and I should get a job. And so I helped her calm down. I helped her see that in the worst case scenario, she can go get a job, or, you know, there's so many things you could do right now as a side hustle. You know, we mentioned several times drive an Uber. You can go crash with some friends. You're going to be okay. You're safe. And she said, but what's my business plan? And I said, well, what were all the things that you were doing before? Because she started talking about how she's been isolating, she's been stressed. She said, yeah, I used to volunteer at such and such thing that I was passionate about once a week. I used to go to dinner with friends. I used to go to church once a week. And I go, well, here's your business plan. You're going to go back to volunteer. You're going to have dinner with your friends, and you're going to go back to church. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, how is that going to help me figure out my business? I said, because you're going to stop doing your core program, trying to figure all this stuff out, or however it's showing up, and you're going to create the space, and you're going to plug back into energy. And in that space, the answers are going to come. But it's very counterintuitive. Right? It's very counterintuitive. Hey, Carol, you're going to actually start working less, don't control as much, and that's actually going to lead your team to make fewer mistakes. It's like, well, how does that make any sense?
I was fortunate because I was forced into that state.
Correct, yeah.
Because I physically...
You had morning sickness.
I couldn't get up.
Well, that's life working for you.
Because I could see how I will fight it. I mean, I was actually fighting it through the whole process. Yeah,
but you developed a mantra. Once I helped you understand that, hey, you don't really need to do anything other than don't be controlling.
Yes.
Right? And you're like, well, what should I do? I'm like, anything else. Mm-hmm. But you developed your own process, which I think was really helpful.
Yeah. So because you made me aware, right? And like, I know how to be controlling. And then...
I know how to worry.
Yeah. And then I knew how to actually like physically take an action, meaning the being controlling is by sending an email, trying to follow up on the status of something. So I could stop that, right? Like, okay, I'm not going to send the email. But this one here, I could not stop it. So even though I didn't send the email, I was sending the freaking email in my head over and over again. Mm. So I was still exercising the controlling part of me.
It's a compulsion. It's an addiction. That's why some of the aspects of the 12 steps are so effective.
Yeah,
here.
and I think, I mean, if you get deeper into our work, you will understand that it doesn't matter if you do or don't do the thing. If you keep rehearsing it, here is the same thing.
You're keeping the neural networks going.
Same energetics.
Yep.
So even though I'm not sending the email to my team, I'm injecting that energy into the relationship, and I'm going to get the same result. So what I did, because you kept telling me, well, you don't do controlling. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing controlling. I don't know how to get it out of my mind.
Do anything else.
So what I decided to do was there was this beautiful song that just catch my attention from one of our plant medicine journeys. That it has, it goes like this. It says, I release control and surrender to the flow of love that will heal me. And I really felt it in me, like just telling myself, I release control and I surrender, and I change it a little bit. I say, I release control and I surrender to receive help. I release control and I surrender to others helping me. So every time that like I was able to not send the email or call and follow up on something, but my mind was going in that direction, I will just repeat that mantra over and over and over until I was not even thinking about it anymore. And then I will move on to something else. And that created this space for me to stop doing the controlling. And now, I mean, it's night and day. I mean, I'm working probably, 4 or 5 hours a day, and the rest of the day I'm dedicated to my son, to my family. But it was because I let go of that control, and I have an amazing team that is taking care of everything even better than I would have done it.
Yeah, and I'm recording podcast and sharing these teachings to more and more people. And we've got the Whole Human Framework, which is just such an unbelievable 10-week, 12-step program for people to go through. And we're building the Whole Human Network, which is this community. And we're decentralizing sort of me as the teacher guru and empowering other people how to live in personal development on a daily basis and be able to spread personal development to other people while making a business out of it. It's a superior model. And it's important to emphasize all those things came after, right? After we let go of the way we had been, where a lot of people would say, well, let me figure this thing out and then I'll let go of the bad habits. And so we get it backwards. And I think, that story of us going through 2022 as a rebirthing process and an actual birthing process is exactly what's happening in the world today. The world is forcing you to grow. The world is forcing you to take more personal responsibility. The world is forcing you to, in many instances, to pursue your passion that you've been afraid to pursue because you've been comfortable maybe in the job that you have, or the world is forcing you to rethink your children's education because of the pandemic, and now you're starting to homeschool and you're taking more personal responsibility for, how your children are growing up, or for your body, right? It's like all of the stuff that we're discovering now that just wasn't true about what occurred during the pandemic, which is making us rethink like health and the way that we handle these types of situations and who we listen to. Like there's so much rethinking and reconsideration going on in the world. And I believe, and I know you believe too, because we've talked about it, that the way to navigate through what seems like increasing uncertainty and chaos is to become even more solid in yourself and to be even more available for space and for spiritual guidance, that there's more opportunity than ever before if you can let go of the old personality and allow yourself to really be led.
Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.